Today we're going to install a system to update this infotainment unit to include all the modern apps and features you find in a brand new vehicle. Follow along if you want to see how this is done. In order to complete this job today, I'm going to use a socket set, a towel, panel remover tools, and some heavy-duty mounting tape. You can find links to all of this in the section below. I also received from a vendor all of the electronic bits I need to complete this project. That includes some wiring harnesses and cables, a Wi-Fi Bluetooth antenna, and the car multimedia player. I am not installing a new screen. I will reuse the existing screen for this project. Since I'll be working on electronics on this GX, I'm going to first remove the negative terminal on this battery before beginning any additional work. This will ensure that I don't short circuit or break anything electronic that I didn't intend to. We're going to have to remove a number of panels within the vehicle, including first panel 1 and panel 2. You can do this by using a panel remover tool and prying with it, or simply grabbing there with your hands to pop this off. Any of the tabs you might break doing this, the plastic tabs, can be purchased new. Link in the description below. And this panel as well. Let's also take off the panel around the ignition start. Just again, pull with your fingers. Around the glove box, you want to pull out this panel. This panel did not come off incredibly easily, but grabbing and pulling with enough force finally brought it off. I didn't break anything. This also has to be removed, so pop that off. And this shifter knob has to be removed, but before we do that, let's apply our brake. Parking brake applied there. Applying the parking brake was important because later we need to move around this knob to park and neutral and drive in order to get these panels off, and we want to make sure that our vehicle doesn't roll around while doing that. So to remove this shifter knob, I'm just going to rotate the knob counterclockwise. Let's now remove this panel. Do that by pulling up around here. Again, you might want to use your pry tool. So it looks like I made my first mistake. In order to get this panel off, I need to be somewhere around in neutral, not in park, because this interferes with this panel coming off. So I had to reconnect the battery terminal on the front. Now I can shift to neutral after powering on the vehicle, and parking brakes applied, so I'm not going to move. From this gear shifter orientation now, I can remove this panel. This panel is loose, so let's remove some electrical connections down here. Simply pinch and pull. Down here as well. And another. I want to completely remove this ignition button. Simply pinch and remove your connector. In order to remove this larger panel, we need to pull out some bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's done with a 10mm socket with an extension. Small panel exists down here. Just pull that out by hand. And 2 more bolts are revealed that need to be removed. And I made mistake number 2. I don't think I needed to remove this bolt down here, nor this bolt down here. But these, in fact, were important. So from here, I'll remove these panels. Panel number 1. Just pull that with your hand. As we pull this out, I don't want to damage it, so I'm going to cover up this area with my towel. Let's see if we can grab this. Let's set it here for now, and let's pull off this panel. It comes off really easily. The back of this panel has a number of connectors, so let's remove those. Simply pinch and pull these out. And we're free. The vendor supplied us some wiring harnesses that we need to use at this point. Wiring harness 1 and wiring harness number 2. Those plug into the back of this unit. I'm going to try to follow some pictorial diagrams that the vendor sent me to wire this all up. So I have to remove a few of the original cables from this unit, beginning with this connector. To do that, use a little pry tool in here, pop that little lever up, and now I can pull out these cables. Also, I need to remove this connector, pinch and pull, and these green connectors down here. Pinch and pull. With my vendor supplied wiring harness, plug this green connector in to the green part down here. The opposite green end of the wiring harness plugs into the original OEM cable from the vehicle. And this large connector on the second supplied vendor harness plugs into here. Lock down your lever. The OEM plug connects right into here. And lock your lever. Vendor wiring harness plugs into here. And OEM plug connects to vendor plug. On the vendor cable, these two connectors I connected to one another. These remain disconnected yet, and these wires. So here, before I tidy everything up and reinstall, I'm going to plug wires into my car multimedia player to see if this all actually works. So let's plug in some wires here. According to a diagram given to me by the vendor, this plugs into here. Blue connector plugs into blue port. This vendor supplied cable connects into this port. The vendor Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna plugs into here. And the purple connector into the purple port. So it looks like our car multimedia player is fully plugged in. The vendor instructions did not tell me to plug these in anywhere. I imagine these are for optional accessories, so we'll leave those alone. This connector, it says speaker, also maybe an optional accessory. I'm not plugging that in. I'll temporarily reconnect my battery just to try out all of my electrical connections. Reconnecting my ignition button. Let's crank over the engine. Our original factory infotainment unit is powering up. It seems to be functioning. After connecting via Bluetooth to the new multimedia player, Android Auto seems to work. Movement with this touchscreen is very smooth. That's nice to see. And I can enter and move around to different apps. Google Maps also seems to work. If you have CarPlay, Android Auto, AirPlay, those also seem to connect to this multimedia player. And I can exit and to return to my factory OEM setup. Now that everything's proven to work, I'm going to disassemble this again and package away all of my little parts and wires correctly, making everything neat and tidy and fully reassemble. So from here, I want to package these wires nicely into the vehicle. These cables need to go behind the stereo. Just package these wires in such a way that they aren't broken or twisted when everything is reinstalled. I'll also put this wire down through the back of the vehicle and the purple connector wire as well. And we'll push the stereo back into place. So now our stereo is back into place. These cables are OEM to the display unit, and then the vendor cables are here and OEM cables here. From here, let's plug in all of our vendor cables to the multimedia unit. And here's our Wi-Fi Bluetooth antenna. Plug that guy back in. From here, I want to find a good mounting place. I'm going to use a double-sided sticky tape to mount this down deep into this compartment, away from everything else, to make sure it's not going to be disturbed. So let's clean up our wires the best we can. I put the multimedia unit back in this area. It could probably fit in here without obstructing anything else, but this area also accommodates it. I'll use some double-sided sticky adhesive to really lock it into place. And the Wi-Fi Bluetooth antenna already has some 3M adhesive applied to it. I'll use that to mount the Wi-Fi antenna adapter right on top of the multimedia player. And the vendor cables that are unused, I'll just let those sit down here. Nothing's gonna hit them down in this pocket. And I'm left with these OEM cables, these OEM cables, and these OEM cables. Let's get everything else back together. We'll plug our wires back into the display unit. Let's put our center console back into place, remembering to plug our wires in as we go. All of these wires down here are the OEM cables. Open this compartment, make sure nothing back there is obstructing movement. We need our passenger vent. Thread back on your shift knob. Before you install the rest of your panels, you need to reinsert all those bolts that you removed. With those bolts assembled, we can pop this plastic piece back on. Ignition button panel. Driver's side panel. Glove box panel. And finally, to finish off this job, let's pop on the passenger side panel. Reconnect your battery. Turning on my vehicle, the multimedia system powers up and automatically connects to my phone via Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. I have an Android phone, so Android Auto automatically boots up and begins playing my music. Also, I can use navigation from my phone. I'm very happy with this system. It does exactly what I need to do. This was an excellent upgrade for a Lexus that was otherwise a little bit outdated in the multimedia realm. Another really great upgrade to the Lexus GX460 is this magnetic vehicle phone holder. It attaches to your windshield with magnets rather than suction cups, which fail over time, or anything sticky that also fails and leaves a sticky residue. My phone is easily held in place, and the external magnet does not collide with the windshield wipers. Check out the link in the description below to obtain your Neos magnetic vehicle phone holder.